Hello. Hi, my name is Mariia Schu and I'm your favorite architect and guide. And today I suggest we do a cultural day together in St. Petersburg, Russia, where I currently am. This concept of a cultural day was created once by my friends and me after we spent a fabulous day eating some good food, drinking coffee, enjoying some art in museum, and then finishing off with some shopping and walking around the city. So I thought that it might get some inspiration from the day like this, and I decided to show you my home stage. And let's start the day, shall we? So it will be the first video of the series about St. Petersburg. So whilst we are walking towards the coffee place, I'll tell you a bit more about the city in Russia, which is considered to be Russian cultural capital. The city of St. Petersburg is relatively young. It celebrated his 321st birthday this year. St. Petersburg was founded by Russian Tsar Peter I. You might ask me, and what about Moscow? Why Russian Tsar didn't want to live in a Russian capital? Why he wanted to create a new one? The thing is that Tsar Peter I was very progressive. He traveled a lot across Europe, visited Versailles, studied in Holland, and brought back home an idea of a new Russian Amsterdam. He was dreaming that there will be no carriages, but everyone will be sailing along the canals. And funny enough, his wish in summer seems to come true. Just check all these ships of different kinds. But the city is rather called Northern Venice because mostly Italians build it and colored houses in various colors. With these stories about St. Petersburg, we are arriving to the first destination of the day. I personally have to drink a bit of coffee, therefore I'm taking you now to a nice coffee place that is located nearby the museum, and it's called Civil Coffee. This coffee place is relatively new. You can tell this by looking at this modern interior. The light design with contemporary colorful details are always a sign for me of a good specialty coffee. The place has 2 floors and enough space and choice of food, coffee and even drinks. Today is very hot in the city, so I'm taking espresso tonic, which will cost you 250 rubles or 2.5 euros. This drink is a good mix of fresh and coffee taste. And for today's cultural part, take you to the most famous museum in St. Petersburg and most likely in Russia as well, and the one that I really like, which is called Hermitage. It's also, I believe, the 4th museum in the world in terms of quantity and the quality of collection. So interesting, huh? I'm right now on the main square of St. Petersburg, which is called Palace Square, and it's called like this for the reason because the Hermitage where we're going now used to be a palace for Tsars, so it was a Tsar home, and then afterwards, 100 years after, it became a museum with art open to the visitors. Right now the square is the stage for some music festival, therefore there is lots of construction, so I can't show you the full beauty of the facade. This green building is actually the facade of the Hermitage. So let's not waste time and go to see it. We quickly went through security and now we are in the Hermitage yard. I'm a bit late, but hopefully we can make it. That's the cultural day thing. You want to put so much into one day, but eventually it pays off. At least you can't say that it was boring. And now we are inside of Hermitage. I paid 500 rubles or 5 euros for the visit. The museum consists of 5 buildings, but today we will walk only in the Winter Palace and check all the most beautiful interiors. The interior of the staircase is original and it's pure Baroque. This was a favorite style of the Empress Elizabeth, daughter of Peter I, whose crazy idea was to create this Winter Palace. If you will ever see this amount of gold and light, you can remember me, because you can be sure that that's Baroque. And yes, here, this is a real gold. The architect Rastrelli made sure that the space feels much bigger than it actually is. There is no direct border between walls and ceiling. The space just flows up and the ceiling disappears somewhere in Italian plafond. The architect even widened the space with putting mirrors in front of windows, and all the light from chandeliers shines even brighter in them. The staircase is one of my favorite spots in Hermitage, mostly because it shows how the palace looked like before all the renovations caused by the fire. It shows like beauty over the top. Some people can say, well, it's too much. Maybe, but it's very beautiful. The next hall is very different and even made in deliberate contrast in a style with the staircase. This one is dedicated to a Russian army. Here, architect plays with us. For example, do you think this marble is real? Well, no. But not because they didn't have enough money, but because it was in fashion back then. Same for these vases. They're not from metal, they're porcelain. And what about the chandelier? Just kidding. This one is indeed from bronze and is very heavy. In the next hall you can't really stop, therefore I will quickly pass and hopefully will manage to tell you something about this on the go. You see the throne, but nobody ever sat here. This hall was created just for memorizing Peter I, the founder of the city, whose portrait you see here. And the garment is original, renovated, and shines particularly nice in this light. We are entering the hall where Tsars had receptions with governors of all Russian states. The hall is called armorial because on the chandeliers there are coat of arms of Russian districts. And again, you see the contrast with the previous hall. It's done deliberately, so the visitor will experience different styles and different emotions going from the main staircase to the main throne hall. Before the renovation, the hall was white, but afterwards it was decided to make the columns golden in order to increase the impression of everyone who is visiting the ball or the museum nowadays. As I mentioned before, we Russians like to impress, but try to do it with style. And again, the gallery that is dedicated to a Russian army and the war against Napoleon of 1812. There are over 300 portraits here that English painter together with Russian artist did of the heroes of that war. The empty frames that you see over there are not a loss, and they're not under renovation. It was always like this from the beginning, because unfortunately not all the heroes survived until the end of the war, but Emperor Nicholas I signed the list of people who has to be depicted in this gallery himself, so that was his wish. We are entering the main throne hall with a real throne that connects us to the English crown, because that's an actual copy of the throne on which English King Carl III sits nowadays. The hall is a bit intimidating, but I guess that's the whole point, and marble here is definitely real. There is this beautiful ornament on the ceiling. When you look down, this will be the same, almost the same ornament on the floor, except people are not allowed to step on the coat of arms, which you don't see on the floor, but you see on the ceiling. This is the last palace hall that we will visit today. In fact, we are already not in the Winter Palace, but in the small Hermitage. It used to be a 6-room apartment of Catherine the Great, and she called it Hermitage. And according to some legends, she met here with her lovers. Of course, it might be only rumors, because Hermitage is translated like a secluded retreat, so maybe she just read books here. Later on, already in 19th century, this became a one hall in eclectic style. The main attraction of the room is, so to say, a small gift from one of the Empress's powerful lovers, and that's a clock, peacock clock, that came from England, but with the mastery of Russian craftsmen, it's still going on. So you can see the performance every Friday at 7 p.m. The room is indeed a great mix of styles. There is a copy of Vatican mosaics, the Arabic style fountain of tears, and a hanging garden that was a present, or rather a compliment to Catherine the Great, to compare her with the famous Semiramid. We are slow in finishing the tour for today. If you like it, please leave some reaction. This will be a sign for me to continue. Now we are done with our cultural part of the day, and I'm a bit starving, so I will take you to one of my favorite places in St. Petersburg. It's just around the corner. They offer Australian cuisine, as I may say, and it's called Saviv. So let's check what they offer today. So in order to get to the restaurant, you have to go from the Palace Square, which is over there, towards this yard and Grand Capella. Follow me. Going through the yard, you will end up in this nice boulevard, and on your left-hand side you will already see the restaurant Saviv. The interior is very chic and very eclectic at the same time. It's a very bohemic place, so people who work in Hermitage or in the theaters like to come here for a cup of coffee or a drink. But now I think I will have a place on the terrace because the weather is fantastic. I ordered traditional hummus with pita and eggplant with burrata and skuk. Then was waiting on the terrace enjoying my new book when the food arrived. I guess at this point I will tell you bye and dive into my food. Thank you for the day that you spent with me. If you like this concept, you can always obviously subscribe for my social nets. Yeah, and bye. See you next time, hopefully.